Hakadosh Boker Or Masechet Batra Daf Kav Gimel Amud Aleph 123 A1 Daf Yomi Modim LeSimcha. We're going to start as follows. We were just making right now an explanation about when we're talking about Pishnayim. How do you give the double portion to the Bechor? Do you do it that it's Ki'ilu, that you split it up between another brother and then he takes portions of two brothers? Or do you say that he takes mamash double? So obviously it's going to be much more. Yeah. So he says the din hu, right? He says like this: Chalkuim echad v'chalkuim chamisha. The Bechor is going to be cholek lifamim with one brother and sometimes with five brothers. Ma chalkuim echad pishnayim keechad. Remember that he's always going to take kilu with pishnayim. So to it should be also pishnayim, even if it's going to be five brothers. Oklach lederzu, go the other way around. Chalkuim echad v'chalkuim chamisha. Ma chalkuim echad pishnayim v'chol nechasim. Ma chalkuim chamisha pishnayim v'chol nechasim. Meaning, I can't bring a proof because I have two ways of looking at it. Do I look that he always gets pishnayim, or do I look that he gets just the double portion? Double portion just means he gets like another brother. So Tamuluma comes teach vaya biyom enchilo banav. Torah dibta nachla etzel achin. Ha en alecha ladun kalashon acharon el kalashon rishon. So we're going to go that in such a case the bechor is going to take rak pishnayim michelko shel echad, not pishnayim mikol hachalakim. He's not taking double of everybody together. He's taking double of one person. So therefore, a kavanah that you divided an extra one, and he gets that one. So he's going to take double. Ve'omer, and it also says, Uvnei Reuven bechor Yisrael, ki hu ha'bechor, uv chalelo Yesue aviv nitra bechor Yisrael, Yosef ben Yisrael, but then it was given to Yosef. Ve'lo lityachesh lebechora. Meaning, right, he says, LeReuven tamid yeh toar bechor, because he was called bechor Yisrael. But the zechut of the Bechor was given to Yosef, but he's still the Bechor. Yeah? You understand? Meaning, a Bechor, minikra Bechor Yisrael Reuven. Aval ha-zechuyot shel Bechora halchu li-Yosef. Rak ha-zechuyot. Aval zeu. Okay? So he says, ve'omer, and it says, ki Yehuda gavar be'echav v'nagib mimenu ve'bechora li-Yosef. Ne'emra Bechora li-Yosef, ne'emra Bechora li-Dorot. Ma Bechora amanu li-Yosef pirishayim ke'echad. It's always going to be two chalakim, because they only took an extra chelek, meaning they just divided it in another brother, and therefore Yosef got two portions. And it says, he says he didn't take cherev ukeshet. Halu kvar ne'emar lo bekashti eftach v'charbi lo toshieni ela charbi ze tefila v'kashti zu bakasha. It's a Gemara mefureshet. We know that the cherev and the keshet, the tefillah. Shte sugim shel tefillah, aval ze tefillah. Necharbi ukashti. Yeah, tefillah. So says the Gemara, my ve'omer, what does it mean now ve'omer? 100%. V'yechitem, and if you're going to tell me, hi, lech Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, hu data. He says, 1 second. He says, I thought that we were talking about the Yochanan ben Broka that we just said now. That if a person has a fuyu yorshim, he could say, dafka to this yoresh. So Tashema uvnei Reuven, right? Uvnei Reuven bechor Yisrael. They write that what? That was given, the bechorato was given. Bechitem bechoram bechorato lo gamaninan. Now if you're going to tell me we don't know gezerah shava bechora to bechorato, Tashema comes tishuva bechora Yosef. Meaning, we had, right, different limudim, and we already know that Yosef did take double portion. So if it says uvnei Reuven bechor Yisrael, but one is bechora and one is bechorato, because the first one was ki hu bechor, and then there was another one that says bechora li Yosef, and there was bechorato, right? So he says, right? He says, if you're going to tell me that you don't learn it, he comes and he says, "Batashma bechora li Yosef." Bechitem Yosef gufe mimai de pishnayim keechadava. How do you know that Yosef bemet received two portions? Tashema v'ani nitati lecha shechem achad alachecha. I'm going to give them one shechem alachecha. So now the Gemara says as follows, yeah? Elmaleh, he says, Elmaleh Rav Papa Abaye, ema dikla ba'alma. He says, maybe Be'emet Yaakov gave to Yosef maybe just one tree or whatever it is. Maybe whoever told you it was like a double portion. So Elmaleh, he says, Alecha makra Ephraim Menashe Reuven Shimon. He says, 1 second, it says, Ephraim and Menashe are going to be like Reuven and Shimon. That means obviously they got mamash double portion. So Rabbi Hechal bo Rabbi Shmuel ben Nachmani. Mara Yaakov shenta bechora ben Reuven. Why did Be'emet he take it away from Reuven and he gave it to Yosef? Evanten? למה באמת הוא עשה את זה? אז מה ראה? הוא בכלל לא יוצא אביב כתיב. He says he switched the beds. Obviously he did it, but he changed it. אלא, but rather, מה ראה שנתנה ליוסף? Why דווקא יוסף more than the other brothers? So he says, משול לך משל למה דבר דומה, what are we going to compare it to? לבעל הבית שגידל יתום בתוך ביתו, to בעל הבית that he had a יתום in his house. לימים, after a little while, ישיד אותו יתום ואמר, ענהו לבעל הבית מנכסיי. He says, the יתום became rich. So he says, you know what? I'm going to give him for my property. What does that mean? הכרת הטוב, right? The guy came, right? He gave him so much. So now he has to give him back. So much, he has to help him out. He has to give him back. So Elmaleh, he told him, "V'lav dechata Reuven lo mahani li Yosef lo midam." He says what? "V'ilu lo chata Reuven זה לא היה עוזר כלום ולא midam שום דבר." For sure היה נותן לו. משלו גם. So then what's the pshat then? That why is Yaakov Avinu coming and trying to be poter את עצמו להגיד טובה ליוסף by coming and giving him the other portion, right? So he wants to basically just say that Yosef בגלל שהוא טיפל בכל צורכי אביו במצרים, אז כאילו הוא היה חייב לתת לו עוד חלק. כן? בגלל יוסף כאילו היה יתום, שהוא נהיה עשיר, והוא נתן לו, אז עכשיו הוא צריך לתת לו בחזרה. So he says what? But what happens if Reuven wouldn't have sinned? So what's he going to do? אלא רבי יונתן רבך לא כך אמר, he didn't say that, ראויה הייתה בכורה לצאת מן רחל. Really באמת, רחל was supposed to have the בכור. תכתיב אלה תולדות יעקב, יוסף. אלא שקדמתה לאה ברחמים בת. לאה came first because of her תפילות. And therefore, מתוך צניעות שהייתה בה ברחל, because of the צניעות רחל אימנו had, החזירה הקדוש ברוך הוא לה, he gave it back to her. Meaning ממש, because of the tzniut that she had. Here it's an incredible, right? The tzniut, we're going to explain it in a few minutes. What was the tzniut exactly, right? But he comes and he says, because it doesn't make sense what we're going to say. What is the tzniut exactly? But we'll see. So says the Gemara, my kadmato lo b'ra. What does that mean she was kadmata b'rachamim? What does it mean b'tfilah? So he says, Dichti v'nei le'ra rakot. The eyes of Leah were soft. My rakot. If you're going to tell me rakot mamash, right? אפשר בגנו בהמת מעל וברה כתוב, תכתיב מן הבהמת תורה מן הבהמה שאין תורה, בגנו צדיקים דבר כתוב. I don't understand. If you're going to tell me that she didn't have nice eyes. The Torah was ממש חס על כבוד של בהמה טמאה, והוא לא אמר טמאה, בהמה אשר איננה טהורה. And now it's going to come and it's going to say, right, אלה הרכות, something negative. אלא אמר רבי אלעזר, says רבי אלעזר, מתנותיה ארוכות. Right, the מתנותיה, the מתנות, were given were arukot, were gdolot yoter. Right, she had much more matanot. She had much more presence. Rav comes and he says, no, rakot is mamash, but it's not gnai. You know why it's not gnai? It's a sheva chula. It's actually a praise. Why is it a praise? שהייתה שומעה פרשת דרכים בני אדם שהיו אומרים שלמנים היו לרבקה. ושתי בנות לבן says she used to hear people always coming and saying, Rivka had two boys. Lavan had two girls. גדולה לגדול וקטנה לקטן. The older one for the older one, younger one. So she used to ask them, what is a gadol? What is a Esav? They used to say, Ishra. He's a terrible person. Melastem et abriot. He would steal from people. Yeah, Katan Mamasav. Okay, what about the Katan? It says, Ishtam Yeshav Olim. So Sadiq. He was learning Torah. So what happened? She was crying and crying and crying and crying until what? Until she had her eyelashes came out. That's why it says, that's why it says, what do you mean snua? If you're going to tell me much snua, again, the Torah does not speak about the negative of an animal, and now the Gemara is going to speak about the Torah is going to speak about the Gnut Tzadikim. Ela ra Kadosh Baruch Hu, can you close the door, please? Ela ra Kadosh Baruch Hu, shesunin maaseh Esav befanea. He saw that snua was the maasim of Esav. Not she was snua. It was snua the maasim shel Esav be'enea. Right? Vayiftach et rachma. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and he opened up her womb. Thank you. Umay tzniut shayta b'Rachel. What was the tzniut that they had in Rachel? Dichtiv, as it says in Pasuk. So you understood that's a pshat of the tefillah. So because she was mekadmata the tefillah. So he says, what was the tzniut in Rachel? Dichtiv v'yeged Yaakov Rachel kechaveu v'chiyeh b'nu nikavu. Says one second, Valo penachot aviyayu. He says, I don't understand. What does it mean now that Yaakov is a brother of the father? So that means Kilu, that he's the uncle of Rachel. He wasn't an uncle. He was the cousin. He was the nephew of Lavan. What does it mean by Achia? Ela amarla, minafsavli, get married to me. Amrale, she went and she said, in, yes. Miu Abba Ramahu. He says, Abba is a Ramai. Lo yacholz leh. I can't. Amalai, so he told her, "My ramute, what's the ramut?" Amrale, she said, "Ilya achatad, I've got an older sister. Velo min sabri, he would never get married before me. Meaning, I would never be able to marry before him." Amalai, he says, "Achiv anu b'ramut." I'm his brother. In what? In Ramaut. So says the Gemara, Amrale, she told him, "Umisharule tzaddik is good." Says what? A tzaddik could come and start doing kombinot. מותר לו לעשות כל הבאז'ות האלה, מותר לו. He says, אם נברתי תבר ומיקש תטפל. אתה צריך להתנהג עם הבן אדם כמו שהוא מנהג. מה זאת אומרת? אם נברתי תבר ומיקש תטפל. He says here, אם אדם ברור וישר הוא, נהג עמו הפתע בברור ודברך ישר. ואם מיקש הוא, הרבה בדרך מעקשים הכלכלה, יש לנהג עמו בעקמומיות, וטלטלות. That's even more than the thing. Okay? Fine. So what happened? Masala simanim. He gave her simanim. Ki kamel Leah, when it came to Leah, Savra, she said, she said, one second, my sister's going to get embarrassed. Misatina nala, she gave her the simanim. Vainu dichti, vayi babok v'nei Leah. Because it wasn't Leah. And we talk simanim, Shabasal Leah, Kol Rachel, Masata Leah, she didn't know. Meaning Yaakov Avinu didn't know until the morning it was Leah. Because in the nighttime, she had the simanim. So now, but did you realize? It says here that what was the tzniut of Rachel? Mesirat simanim. That's tzniut. Usually we come and we speak about tzniut, that she's dressed properly, that she's this, she's that. Completely different stuff. So we gave a shiur on this based upon Rav Shalom Shodron a few years ago in the Lev Shalom. Beautiful pshat. What's the pshat? That there was tzniut. There was a tzniut in the simanim. And the answer, I'll just give it to you on the regel lachat. The answer is that tzniut was not the mesirat simanim. The tzniut was how she gave over the simanim. Why? She gave over the simanim in such a way that Leah never knew that they were simanim. Because what were the simanim? The simanim, as Oziel already says, was chana. Right? Exactly. Chala nida lakataner. What's chena? The chena is chala nida lakataner. So v'titpalel chana. So therefore, since it's right? So therefore, the chena is chana, right? Is chala nida lakataner. So she taught her these halachot. So when she taught her the halachot, she said every Jewish girl that's going to get married is to know these halachot. So she taught her the halachot. She didn't come and start saying, by the way, I have a secret code where, KGB between me and my no. She gave over the simanim. She gave it over. That's why Leah later on comes and says, "You stole my husband." Rachel could have said, "I stole your husband." If it wasn't for me, you would have been embarrassed. You would have been thrown out of the room like I don't know what. Now you're telling me that I stole your husband. She didn't even know. Because she didn't realize. He lo sama lev. That tzniut שהייתה בה. It was a tzniut in the form. He הסתירה את זה באיזושהי צורה. That's Rav Shalom Shodron. הבנת? מאוד חזק. So he says, בא מן אבא חליפה קרויה מרבי חייא בר אבא. So ask אבא חליפה קרויה from רבי חייא בר אבא. בכללן אתה מוצא 70. בפרטן אתה מוצא 70 חסר אחד. Do you know that when we're talking about Yaakov and his children, it says Biklalan, there's 70 of them. But really, when you actually pay attention to them, there's only 69. So what's going on? Amaleh, Teoma ita im Dina. There was a Teoma with Dina, Dichtiv, Ve Dina Bito. Ve'et, the Lerabot Od Echad. So the minute היה עוד Teoma. Ela me'ata, so he says, one second, Teoma ita Binyamin. But there was also Teoma with Binyamin. Dichtiv was in the Pasuk. Kuf Gav Gimel Amubet. 123b. Ve Binyamin Achiv Ben Imo. So he says, what does that mean? So he says here, so it says et, right? It says ve'et. So the Shbam is saying, when it says ve'et Binyamin Achiv, so it's mashma that there was another Toma also. So Amar Magali Tova ita biyadi ve'atam vakesh le'abedeh mimeni. He says, you wanted to get rid of it for me? What does that mean? He says, I have to tell it to you now. Hachi Amar b'chama chanina. Zu Yocheved. This is Yocheved. Shorata b'derech ve'ledereh ben achomot. That she was born during the way, and she was conceived, right? If you remember before, but then she was born between the walls. Ne'emar, right? Ashir yalda ota le'mitzrayim. Leidata b'mitzrayim ve'norata b'mitzrayim. By mine Rabbi Chelbo ben Meshubah ben Nachmani. So ask Rabbi Chelbo ben Meshubah ben Nachmani. Ketiv etzud vayika shel yalda Rachel et Yosef. My shna ki yelid Yosef. Why all of a sudden now when Yosef was born? Well, Yosef was born. Now we can leave. What's going on? Amaleh, he said, Yaakov Avinu shen zero shel Esav nimsa Rabbi Yaakov Avinu already knew that the children will always fall in the hands of Yosef. That's why there first has to be a Mashiach ben Yosef and then a Mashiach ben David. Because zero shel Esav hem yiplu lifnei Yosef. So he says, so what happened? Shnei vayabet Yaakov esh. ובית יוסף לאהבה, ובית יוסף לקש. So 8 ways, so they're going to ask the question, ויקם דוד בן השבע דוד במחלותם, he says that David HaMelech came, and he was hitting them. So you see, how is he matzliach? It's first, so he says, Elmaleh, da'akrach neviah, lo akrach ketuveh. If you learned Nevi'im, you didn't learn Ketuvim. Dichtiv, velechto el tziklag, naflu alav. Right? Mimenashe, adnach, v'yozev, v'davev, v'michael, v'zovev, v'lehuv, v'tzimtir, v'shel, v'fim, v'shel, v'menashe. Comes out that there was in the zechut of Menashe ben Yosef. They came together with David to Tziklag. And since they came together with David, he saw it Mina Shamayim. The fact that they're coming to him, he said it's Mina Shamayim. Why did Ben Yosef come with me now? In order that we could kill out Amalek. So they went and they killed out Amalek. Because he already saw that they were going to fall in the hands of Yosef. So Mativ Yosef comes and he asks, בהם בני שמעון הלכו להסעיד אנשים 500 ולתן נזבים פויה ואוזיאל בני שבראשים בראשם היקוד שלי ולדם המלך ושהוא שמע דברים הזה. And he says, if an Amalek is going to be given only to the hands of Yosef, so then how was Bnei Shimon able to hit them? So Yishi came from Menashe. Okay, fine. So it always has to come in front of the Yosef. Okay, fine. Next, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned to the Braita. הבכור נוטל פי 2 בזרוע ולחיים ובקבה ובמוקדשים. ובשבח ששפכו נכסים. He says, לאחר מיתת אביהם. So it says, we learned to the Braita, the Bechor is going to be Nontel Pi Shnaim, whether it's going to be in Zerua L'chaim Ukeva, right, that came to their father, or in the Mukdashin, in the Dvarim Kodshim, Uvashevach also an appreciation. What's the case? What if the father left them a para, Mucheret Muskeret, that was going to be rented out or taken out by other people, or it was in the swamp and it gave birth. The Bechor is going to take Notel Pi Shnayim. Aval banu batim venatu keramim en habechor notel pi shnayim. If it's going to be that they built houses and they planted, the Bechor is not going to take pi shnayim. Haya zerua l'chaim ekeva. When we're talking about now the zerua l'chaim ekeva, he says, "Hechid." I mean, what's the case? Idatu l'deavun. If you're going to tell me that it came to the hands of the father, pshita, that's obviously. Ve'idu loati l'deavun. If it didn't come to their hands, rauyu. It's a raui. And habechor notel pi shnayim raui. Exactly. We already learned 100 times that a Bechor does not take pi shnayim in the raui, only in muchzak. So answers the Gemara, we're dealing with Makirei Kiuna. Makirei Kiuna means that you already know that they're going to give it to you. But they're Makirei Kiuna. Makirei Kiuna is like the friends that they've given you for years. For years, we always give it to you. Right? The Shtachit Bechayavon that was already slaughtered during the lifetime of the father. Because consider Kilu was Hurmu. What is Mukdashin? Lavdideninu. It's not his. It's Kodesh. So he says, "V'kodashim kalim." We're talking about kodashim kalim in according to Rabbi Yisrael. The Amar Mamon Ba'alim hu. Talking about Mamon Ba'alim. The time we learned in the Braita, Ma'ala Ma'am Ba'Hashem Narabo kodashim kalim. Shehem Mamon Ba'alim. The Rabbi Yisrael. These are the words of Rabbi Yosef HaGelileh. So says the Gemara, "Iniach lahem aviem para." Okay, Musar b'yad acharim. O shayta roa ba'efer yalda bechor notel pi shnayim. So he says like this: if right now the father left them a para, which was already rented out to somebody else, or it was grazing in the swamp and it gave birth, so the chor is going to be notel pi shnayim. So he says, it's not even in its property, and you already said he's going to take. So if it's going to be in the swamp, obviously it's going to take. Yeah? אם אתה אמרת שזה כבר בידיים של מישהו אחר, שמישהו אחר משתמש בזה, והוא כבר עדיין, הבכור נוטל פי 2, קו וחומר אם זה סתם באגם, שהוא לוקח פי 2, so says the Gemara, Kamashmanan was come teach you, שמוחקרת ומוזכרת, דומיה דרועה באפר. When we're talking about מוחקרת ומוזכרת, it's דומיה דרועה באפר. מה רועה באפר? שבחה דמילה קאטי, it's coming on its own. Yeah, ולא כחסר במזונה, and it's not going to be חסר מזונות. So he comes and he says, so too, מוחקרת ומוזכרת, שבחה מילה קאטי, it's normal שבח, which is coming on its own, תלאו חסר במזונה, that it's not going to be חסר מזונות.